All right, folks, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard a special angel pitch with our brother Spyder. Many of you know Spyder if you haven't met him personally. Spyder is he's literally, you look up the definition of 500-pound head in the dictionary, and you got that smiling mug right there. Spyder's a Viper guy, so he flew the lawn darts out of Atlantic City, where I was born and raised. I used to drive from my home on the shore to St. Augustine Prep, an all-boys high school in the middle of the woods in New Jersey. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But on the way out there, I would stop every once in a while. I'd be late to school because the F-106s would be scrambling or sitting. I was that kid sitting at the end of the runway with his face glued up against the fence. And so love the guys, the Jersey Devils. And when I went to visit Norwich University with my son, Matthew, we were walking around the campus and we're walking past all these instructors' offices, and I see a couple of Viper patches and actually an F-18 weapons school patch. And I'm like, I got to peek into this office. And there's this nerd in there with a pair of Air Force wings on. So I throw him some shit. And of course, he immediately reattacks. And we've been best friends ever since. And it's funny because he's sitting there. He's like, wait a minute, you're that Top Gun options guy? Shit, I know you, or I follow you. So, I've been best friends for 5 years now, I guess, 5-6 years. And he's a dear friend, 500-pound head. He's saving lives currently right now with his company Spotlight Labs. He can probably hit on that better than I can, but with some Air Force and government contracts, man, literally saving the lives of aviators and air crew. Mech engineer. He was a mech engineer instructor up at Norwich, and a biomedical dude as well. So he'll, I don't want to take away his thunder. And then his buddy Braeden Ostachuk, professional hockey player, man. And then I've looked through this stuff, and I'm going to turn it over to them. But this seems really cool. Full disclosure: don't have a dime in it, don't have a share, have nothing. I'm going to sit back like I'm you all, because I am you all, and I'm going to hear this brief from these guys and check it out. But I trust Spyder with my life, and anything that Spyder's doing, I'm going to get behind potentially. So, my brother Spyder, let me throw it over to you, and you guys can take it.
Hey, great. Thanks, Wiz. I appreciate that. First off, comm check. Can everybody hear me all right? Braeden, you got me?
Yep, I got you.
Terrific. Just first off, thanks everybody for your time this morning. It's a pleasure to be able to present to all of you Kühler and the technology that we're building out and the product that we're building. I just wanted to give a quick introduction. So first off, for Wiz, his recollection of how we first met, spot on. And then through the years, getting to know him and his family and the work that he's doing, both with his foundation and through TOPGUN Options. It's been a natural friendship, and I've really enjoyed it. He's a good guy, and I've appreciated his mentorship and his friendship, especially as he starts moving towards No Fallen Heroes, which I'm looking forward to being more involved with. From the business standpoint, my background, I did a PhD in biomedical engineering, was in the Air Force, flew jets, and then that all culminated with me in the reserves, flying jets on the weekends and teaching college during the week. Been through a number of startups. Some have failed, some have succeeded, as you might expect. Ran a quant fund for about a year, which is one of the reasons that Wiz and I got to know each other better through mining social media, of which this TOPGUN Options account kept showing up in the algorithm. So that was kind of serendipitous when we finally did meet face to face. But in the startup world, really interested in human performance technology, sensors, modeling, and those sorts of technologies to enhance wearable medical technology, human performance technology, building stuff that works, that really has a strong market fit. And so that's a bit of my background. When I was at Norwich, I was very honored to have the gentleman here, Braeden, presenting with me as one of my students. And that's how we first got to know each other. All-American hockey player, went pro after leaving Norwich, has had an incredible life experience, and he won't brag about himself, so I'll do it for him. He was a valedictorian of the entire graduating class with a perfect 4.0 in mechanical engineering. And having had him in class, I know that that is not an easy thing to do while being a D1 athlete. So when he came to me about a year and a half ago with this idea for this Kühler product, I immediately took his phone call and mentored him through sort of the early phase development, the tech maturation, and some of the early market studies, brand development, and prototype development, all the way through min viable products, which is where we find ourselves today. And it's a very exciting time for him as he's kind of setting out on his own to build a company and build a brand and put a product out in the market. So it's a very exciting time for us to be able to talk with all of you about an opportunity to get in early with a new product that'll be coming to market. And I don't want to steal any more of his thunder, so Braeden, I'll turn it over to you, and you can fire away.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Just double checking, you guys can hear me okay?
You bet, man.
Loud and clear, go for it.
Okay, can you see the screen here that we have the slides coming up?
Affirm.
Affirm, okay, excellent, good. Just want to make sure that before I get started that everyone has that. So yeah, thanks Brian for that introduction. And the only mistake, the only thing that he over-exaggerated is that Norwich was actually a D3 hockey school. So I can't take too much credit. I have 2 extra letters next to my name, but it was still great. And I had an opportunity to play pro and play on a lot of different teams. And one of the benefits of playing in the minors and to some extent being a bit of a suitcase is that you get to meet a lot of players and play in a lot of locker rooms and get to see the environment and the sports industry very, very intimately. So I like to think that's a bit of an advantage, but don't want to spend too much time talking about that. I'd like to just get into sharing our vision. I think we've got a really exciting idea and technology and roadmap, and would love to share it all with you, and then we can open it up after. So I'll try and go through this relatively efficiently. So the big picture, really what we're trying to do is we're in that human performance and human technology space. So at the end of the day, we are trying to enhance human performance, and not just in a sports context, although that is the primary context, but general fitness, health, wellness. Those are certainly growing and evolving industries, and there's been more and more of an emphasis, particularly in the last few years, on human health in general. We're sort of more in the elite human performance niche. What we're really trying to do is take human physiology in its natural state, and we're trying to augment it. And we believe we have a methodology and a technology that can do that more or less effortlessly, which is pretty cool and pretty exciting. But the bottom line, focused primarily on athletes, making them train harder, recover faster, perform better. So it's all about excellence, which I think probably resonates with this crowd. So the problem that we're attacking is heat stress. The human body heats up very, very quickly, whether through exercise, which is exertional heat stress, or in a hot environment, which would be environmental heat stress. What happens is our physiology, as we overheat, we begin to have performance degradation. That's both physiological, that's also cognitive, largely regulated top-down central nervous system, but there's also local heating effects. This slide is kind of a quick graphic to show that as that core temperature on the right starts to elevate, athletic performance goes down, as well as recovery time increases. I think the biggest takeaway from this slide and the problem that we're trying to solve, which is really a problem for all humans because it's a physiological system, is that human performance is limited by your physiology, and your physiology is limited by temperature. So if your temperature is too high or too low, you are going to have performance degradation. In this specific context, and a very common context, is overheating. And so what we're trying to do is help to lower core temperature, either by dissipating heat faster to cool down, or just to prevent it from getting to that point on time. So the problem is performance degradation due to elevated core temperature. The target customer that we're really focused on right now are those elite performers. So those would be your professional Olympic athletes. We got Patrick Mahomes on here because he's sort of on the front edge as an ambassador and investor in different technologies such as Hyperice and Whoop. And at that level, sort of a top down, where people see the Patrick Mahomes of the world using all these technologies, and then it gets adopted underneath it. So your fitness enthusiasts, your weekend warriors, it could be CrossFitters, you name it, anyone that goes to the gym and is just trying to get in the best shape of their life. But then also more professional context, military, emergency responders, anyone that's really exposed to high stress, high performance, high heat that can degrade performance and have consequences in whatever domain they're in. So that's really who we're targeted in the niche market. So the solution we're proposing is called Kühler, and I'm not sure if you guys can see my video as well as the screen, but I do have one of our MVP prototypes here in hand, and we can definitely show it off a little bit more later. So just what you're seeing on the pictures. In the shortest way possible, what it really is it is a heat sink that is designed for the human interface. So I'm going to just kind of dive into this really high level. There's special physiology in the palms of the hands. There's special vasculature called arteriovenous anastomoses. And they are essentially, their only purpose is to regulate heat. So they have sphincters. They rapidly increase up to 500% blood flow increase through your hands, and then can also vasoconstrict to essentially get zero blood flow through these special vessels in your hands, which allow as heat transfer in and out of your hands. So it's basically like a radiator in a car. Your blood is your coolant, and then the radiator is the hands, and it allows heat transfer in and out. Now, what we're trying to do is take that surface and augment it so that we can increase the rate that heat transfer can happen out of that hand, because there are still limitations. And our inspiration for what we're trying to do this, and this is really the novel aspect of our intellectual property and our design, is that we're imitating the computer heatsink design. So electronics have figured this out. If your computer gets hot, it starts to shut down, it slows down, it fails, it crashes. But if we have these heat sinks and these simple designs, there's no ice, there's no water, it can work anywhere, it's on demand, it's all just a really simple passive system. You can rapidly dissipate heat from that system, which is why you'll hear the fans going off on your computer if they're working too hard. And that allows you to increase performance and duration. But that same methodology has yet to be applied to the human system, which coincidentally, or perhaps not coincidentally, also struggles at high temperatures. So what we're trying to do is take that computer electronic heat sink design and optimize it for the human interface. And that's really what Kühler is. The biggest value proposition compared to competitors, which we'll touch on a little bit later, is that you don't need water, you don't need ice, you don't need effort. It's completely on demand, portable, remote, small, and effortless. All you have to do is hold this. It's no different than holding a water bottle or holding a cell phone. And it'll significantly increase heat dissipation, which, as we've certainly found, and there's a large body of literature, will actually increase performance quite a bit. So here's a quick overview of the MVP technology that we have developed. As you'll see on the inside, there are some heat sink fins running through it, so that's to increase surface area. There are fans to increase airflow over it, so it's forced convection. And then there's a lot of different nuances to how you can optimize that. We just have a lithium polymer battery. It's a USB-C standard plug-in, LED light symbol on and off button. That's the basic gist of what this design is. So because it's a metal, it's aluminum, it's got high thermal conductivity. When you hold it, it'll rapidly be conductive heat transfer from your body into the device, and then the device with the heat sink fins and the air blowing through it can rapidly dissipate the heat from the device to the ambient environment, therefore increasing the rate at which we can extract that heat from your body, which essentially is going to help to cool off the blood that then recirculates through the core. So this is sort of big picture of why and it's relevant and why we think it matters. And there's, as I sort of touched on earlier, there's a lot of money and growth and investment into optimizing human performance, and percussion massage, compression technologies, supplements and vitamins. You see companies like Athletic Greens in compression massage and percussion massage. You see a lot of Therabodies, Hyperices. There are a lot of rapidly growing companies in human performance. However, a lot of the science behind them, even ones that are published, show very minimal quantifiable performance enhancement, certainly in real time for percussion massage or compression. However, there are strong subjective improvements, and they do feel really well. But going back to about 2005, there was Stanford Science that it was initially started as a DARPA grant that was doing something with Palmar cooling, which is essentially this technique where we extract heat from the palms of the hands. And they noticed incredible increases in human performance just by lowering the core temperature. And as you'll see here, second from the bottom, in one of their studies that was published, this was the 2012 study by Stanford, that they were getting strength increases of 114%, endurance increases of up to 44%. They were getting some pretty astronomical results that seemed too good to be true, and they actually coined Palmar cooling as equal to or substantially better than steroids. There have since been a few technologies that have come out. They've really struggled to take off. They haven't really hit the market successfully, although at the very, very elite levels, you will see people tinkering with some of these different devices and these elite leagues using it. And research with a few different technologies, but very similar methodologies of Palmar cooling at University of Louisville and at University of New Mexico and a few other locations in the last 2 to 3 years have started to replicate these results and have continually found significant benefits. And we don't have research on our MVP because it's sort of anecdotal and small in-house, but I can tell you I've used our MVP and it works. I've consistently seen over 30% increase in training volume I can do literally just by holding this metal device in my hands, which is pretty surreal. So that's sort of the big picture. We sort of envision this Palmar cooling market as what percussion massage was and compression therapy was 10 years ago, where people didn't really know about it. They didn't really see the potential. And now there's multiple billion-dollar companies in those industries. And we're hoping to bring Palmar cooling to that level too. So for market opportunity, there's a lot of ways you could look at this, and there's a lot of ways you could break it down. For simplicity, we focused just to kind of show what the potential is in the US only. And if you look at people who exercise and people who are investing in exercise, and when you think about the average gym goer, let's say, between supplements and fitness apparel and gym memberships, they're easily spending on average close to $1,000 a year. So it's typically high spenders and people who are motivated to improve. And a lot of people are willing to invest in all sorts of different modalities to try and enhance their performance. But if you go down to the second level, more of the addressable market, it's amazing to think that there are 500,000 NCAA athletes every year. When you combine pro athletes, you have a significant target audience that is highly interested in elite performance and willing to spend and invest. There's typically a lot of money available for those markets to invest in elite human performance. You can easily 10x that, if not 20x that, for high school athletes. And then that's not even touching in just the general population, where there are a lot of very enthusiastic and committed high performers, which I think would probably fit a lot of the people in this crowd as well. So the market is hard to quantify. The Palmar cooling market hasn't really taken off. There's not a lot of publicly available information because there's only a few technologies and products that have started to come out within the last 12 to 24 months. But the general human performance market and human performance technology market is certainly large and expanding. So the business model we're looking at, high level, direct to consumer, very much push, there's a future slide on this, but very much push influencer model type marketing, sort of like a Gymshark type approach. But we believe that if the economies of scale and with a product redesign, we can get targeted costs down less than $60. Ideally, we'd be pushing less than $50 a unit. And given what's out there on the market, I think we could fit in nicely around a $200 price point. You'll see there's a significant spread in Palmar cooling technologies that are out there. And I'm not going to go into each one in this presentation, but I do have a slide on each of them in the appendix. So that'll be made available to all of you to look at a little closer after. But I think we can fit in nicely in that low end of the prosumer market, and in that $200 to $300 range is typically where a lot of massage guns and other technologies go, which have a pretty high frequency of purchase rate in this industry. So that's sort of big picture of what we're looking at as a business perspective. Changing that viewpoint to more of a landscape of how we target what that market looks like, you'll notice that at the high end, those higher price points are very more targeted at highly motivated, which is a small subset of the population. And part of the problem is that they're very inconvenient, impractical. They take a lot of work and time and effort, such as pre-cooling and lugging around a big mitt, and then having a charging station, overnight cooling in specific temperatures. So it's sort of a process in itself to use them. I'm sure they do function very well. They're high price and they're high effort, so it probably excludes a large part of the mass market. So really, Palmar cooling hasn't hit mass market appeal. The two on the left in the light gray, there's a few other things that they're very basic. The anti-fatigue charge bar is essentially just an aluminum pipe with rubber caps. So it's something you could probably just go to Home Depot and make for $10 yourself. But again, I don't want to go too detailed into the competition. I think the biggest point of what we're trying to do here is we think that we're at a price point where we can capture all the way from the elite performers with high value proposition down to more of the casual markets. We can really dominate what that market share is. And we also are the only one that does not require any ice, any water, any pre-freezing, pre-cooling, whether that's fridge or freezer. It is legitimately portable, effortless, on demand. You grab it, you press a button, you hold it. There's no other effort. And I think that's what really separates us from the pack as far as competition in this industry goes. So big picture marketing sales strategy, I think this is the make or break in the modern industry, in the modern markets, especially in sports and human performance, is having that influencer push, having social proof and exposure, working largely, I think, with NIL. Now that NCAA athletes can get paid, you can get a large number of athletes that are, in the 5 to 15, 20,000 follower type range on their different social medias. You can kind of build an army, sort of what Gymshark did. There's a few other companies that have done that pretty successfully. Also key influencers, both in the science space, but the athlete space, even general podcasting space. That's really, I think, what the strategy will be, is develop a really good technology, key partnerships, and then use that influence to capture market share. There's also a quick note here that we are going to be attending the 9th Biohacking Conference in Orlando in about 4 weeks. And that's a pretty good opportunity for us. We're really excited to go and see some exposure. It's perfectly targeted audience. It's supposed to be about 2,500 attendees. It costs over, I think the lowest rate is $2,000 to attend. So it's typically high earning, high spending, and individuals who are highly obsessed with human performance and technology that enhances their human performance. So we're really excited for that opportunity. And that's going to be great for us. Unfortunately, that's 4 weeks from now, so I don't have an update on how that went, but check back in 5 weeks and I'll let you know. And then long term, we definitely think there's opportunity to do organizational sales, NCAA leagues, teams, there's other opportunities down the road, but I think right now we're really focused on that direct-to-consumer model. So as Brian had mentioned, we do have an MVP product. We have already built it. We have done some in-house testing. We have also sent it out to some people for some early feedback, which has been really, really valuable. And that's part of the reason that we are here today talking, because we've established what are some key needs or desires for a consumer product, both from scientist level as well as athlete level, as well as investor level and generic consumer level. And we have a really clear picture of what we need to do to develop a product that can really excel in this market. So we did get in touch with Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's sort of the GOAT, if you will, in the human performance and science space. He's a Stanford professor, very, very popular. It's really blown up in the last few years. And we reached out to him, and he actually said he really liked the concept. We sent him a couple of units. We have not been able to follow up with him and have a full conversation, but he did want to set up a call. So that's TBD for now. You'll see a few other players there. George DeYoung, I know him. I'm in the Philadelphia area, and he's on the 76ers, and he likes the idea, and he likes the product, and I've had some talks with him already. Zach Vucali is a good buddy of mine. He's played mostly in the American Hockey Leagues, the second tier of pro, but he's also been up and down a little bit with the Washington Capitals in the NHL, and I know he's a big fan. And then there's a variety of other coach and player type people, as well as biohackers. Dave Asprey is a big biohacker, kind of the father of biohacking. He is the host of the Biohacking Conference, so we've gotten in touch with him, and he's got a unit, and we're going to be seeing him in 4 weeks down at the conference as well. We've also talked to a couple of investment firms. Both of those are more later growth stage companies. RX3, for example, that's Aaron Rodgers' investment firm. They typically only invest in companies with $10 million trailing 12-month sales. So we're not there yet, but we're on the radar. They like what we're doing. We've gotten really good feedback from all these different people that like the concept. They like the idea. They like the vision. But now our biggest objective is to improve upon our MVP and develop a fully functional market-ready product that meets the demand and lives up to the interest of those folks. Which brings us here to the business roadmap, really where we're at. So in the past, we've got a Track 1 patent filed. That was about a year ago, or a little under a year ago. We're actually expecting that to be issued very, very soon, within the next month or two. We've got a full MVP done. We've got initial branding, all that stuff set up. We've testing and demos with some key people from the last slide. We're going to be attending the conference. And then the bottom point here under tech validation is raising seed capital, which is why we're here presenting to you all and seeing if there's any interest. What's going to move forward, which is what's really important, the next 6 months, what we'd be really looking at is a full product redesign. And a lot of it we're going to be able to carry on from what we have, but we want to make sure we have a really clean, sleek product, fully finished, add in a few features that we need to have, and get that market ready product, as well as that's when we start building out the team and bringing some key people, perhaps either a full-time or fractional COO or CMO, depending on where we're at financially. Strategic partnerships, that would be both in the case of advisory board, science side, athlete side, but then also ambassadors, influencers, and people that can be part of that affiliate marketing scheme, and then building up. And really our intent, which I'll kind of build into, it'll actually come on the next slide, is we want to be able to build this product and hit market, have a lot of success so that we can set ourselves up for a subsequent Series A type raise where we can really scale the operations and scale the business and try and capture this market in its early days. So I'll get a little bit more into the funding numbers on the next slide, but I just want to go real quick over technology roadmap. So everything that you're going to see here is covered under our patent. And we think there's a lot of potential growth in terms of capability in the technology. And one of the advantages that we have over our competitors is that we have built our design to be expandable, and it's built on the foundation of having an electrical system and having a PCB board, which means that we are going to be able to, in the future, add and remove different sensors. We're going to be able to add different features so we could have a smart cooling system where we can actually make it where it's a lot like a thermostat, but the device will hold and regulate a temperature. It can even be responsive to your physiology. There's ways that we could start looking long-term at mobile applications, analytics, algorithms. That's not within our scope for the current V1 we're looking at, but all of that is on the potential roadmap. And what's really exciting is when you look at what different products and markets you could tap into when you start going there. Something like handlebars built into the Peloton so you can help people train longer and recover faster, because it's really saying that same technology concept can be built into different form factors. Medical devices is a whole nother animal, but there's huge potential, and overheating and is certainly an issue in a lot of medical scenarios, and having effective on-demand devices that could do that, or portable devices maybe with emergency responders, is something that could be pretty exciting. And then what's really interesting is there's actually a comparable company I threw in the back of the deck that's targeting menopause using a similar technology where they have hot and cooling elements, which we're planning on building into the V1, which I haven't talked about as much, but we can certainly talk about what that design looks like. And they recently just raised $35 million and have had a lot of success. What's also cool is that the way the body works with the hands, not only is it the optimal heat transfer interface for taking heat out of the body, but it's also the optimal interface for putting heat back into the body. So you can also turn this into a heat generation. So if you have people with hypothermia or in other conditions, you can actually warm them up. So lots of potential, lots of things we're excited about. But this is kind of the main event, I guess. Suppose this is what everyone gets excited about. So here's really what we're looking to do to take our business and take our idea from MVP to that next level where we can start to capture market share, and that is to raise some money to help us get that done. So bottom line, we're seeking between 200 and 400 in a safe, and those are sort of the lean ends and the all-in ends where you sort of get the a la carte on the second option. And certainly those are flexible, but the idea is the biggest priority, really there's two priorities. Number one is product development and building a true commercially available product that's ready to go to launch and hit that hard marketing launch either end of calendar year 23 or Q1 calendar year 24. And then the second part is really marketing and building out that, that launch. The team, not just of personnel within Kühler, but also the team of ambassadors and advisors and early evangelists, if you will. And then the goal is to grow, have a successful marketing launch, demonstrate market demand and product market fit, and get some traction so that we can expand with even more raisins, so that we can grow the company, both personnel, but also product and scope, significantly, and try and capture this emerging market while it's young, sort of almost an Amazon approach in the sense where the priority is customer acquisition and just grow as, relatively quickly within reason, of course. So that's the big picture on funding. I think this is the last slide before I open it up to questions, and this is just kind of an overview. So we sort of had a little bit of an introduction there, but here's just a very short bio on Brian and I. I can, to anyone who's interested, send full founder bios. I also have a few additional documents as well I can send. We have flyers for the product, we have flyers for science, and a variety of additional information. And I guess at that point in time, I was just over 20 minutes, so I missed the cutoff by about 15 seconds, but I think I'm going to stop talking, and I want to open up to anyone if they have any questions or thoughts or comments. We're happy to have any conversations. We're available. There's a lot more information in the appendix, which will be made available to all of you, which includes some kind of an overview of the competitors that are out there, as well as some comparable companies and money they've raised, and also a review of all the scientific literature and sort of a scientific listing to back that up. So I'm going to pause there. Wiz, I think I might turn over to you to see if you want to up the floor.
Yeah, I'll take it because you do have a couple questions. You probably don't know where the question thing is over there, but folks, the pitch deck is actually loaded. So look over on your right side, over on the control panel. You can download the pitch deck, so you have it in your possession. And then you have a couple questions here, Braeden. I'll read them to you. First one's from David. I understand that research has not yet been done, but what are some of the speculated health benefits outside of exercise and performance?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. So speculated, I would say that's probably wide ranging. I know I have seen literature published that core temperature is largely or potentially largely related to obesity as one potential issue. But I think the best way to answer is that I would say you could make an argument that it would have implications on all aspects of health. And the reason I say that is because going back to the initial slide is that health as well as performance are limited by your physiology, right? So the ability for your physiological mechanisms to happen as designed will determine your health and your performance. And temperature is one of the largest regulators of all physiological mechanisms. So for example, enzymes, which are a critical protein involved in almost all physiological and biological reactions, at high temperatures, they begin to denature and they lose efficiency. So as you start approaching 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit local temperature, a lot of these enzymes will begin to denature. So at elevated core temperatures, I mean, the possibilities for health degradation are almost endless at high temperatures. One of the biggest areas I think is probably getting the most literature research is on sleep, and having a cool core temperature when you sleep is a make or break for being able to get into deep and REM sleep. And sleep is just a booming industry. Menopause is certainly a booming industry. And I guess what I would leave off is to just say that for anyone who's been following the news in the last few weeks, more and more is coming out, certainly articles published in Nature and a lot of news from the UN Secretary General, but the planet is heating up, and there's at risk in the next 50 years of billions of people significantly at risk for heat stroke and heat illness. which is, health complications to no end there. So I'd say there's certainly emerging literature on it. And Brian, maybe I'm missing something that's coming to your mind, but I really do think that it's fundamental to human health across the board.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it in a bow. I think just to pull back the curtain a little bit farther, when you think of the air conditioning paradigm, we sort of take for granted. I know for anybody who's listening from Florida, you're probably sit in your house with central AC cooking. The volume of air that you need to cool down so that your body can feel cool is where the inefficiency in air conditioning comes in, and especially when you go to developing markets or less industrialized world, and you want to talk about cooling, it's just not practical to cool off a large volume of air in which you are living to feel cool. And so that's another possible area of exploitation that again dovetails into human health and more of the medical use case.
Okay, cool. Another question here from Bruce. Have you done a Kickstart?
No, we have not, but good question, Bruce. We thought about it a little bit, and we've kind of weighed back and forth the different options for raising some capital, but we have not done that yet. We have not taken any outside funding. This is really our first go at it, so we are completely clean right now. It's just Brian and I funding it.
Awesome. Final question from Steve. How do we? Well, I guess it's on the screen right there. How do we reach out to you? So there's your email and your phone number, right?
Yeah, so feel free to call, text, email. That's a good way. We can throw Brian's information on too. I didn't have him on the slides. Trying to keep his phone a little quiet. I know he gets his phone pinging all the time. So, but we can give you all that information, and we can also send you not just our contact information, but if you'd like, we can send you our one-page bios to pass on, and that might make it a little easier too.
Okay, awesome. And then also Spyder providing some mutual support there. He put Dr. Andrew Huberman's link to the Joe Rogan show in the chat box. So if you click on that, folks, you can check that out. Obviously, he's that 500-pound head from Stanford.
Yeah, if you cut forward to, I put it in the chat there, just after the 57 minutes and 30 seconds, they're talking about biohacking and human performance, and Dr. Huberman's looked at palm cooling and reported on it on his own podcast, and there he is on Rogan. Actually, we were joking with Andrew saying, hey, you should send him one of these coolers and see if Joe would like to use it. So anyway, but there he is talking about it on the podcast, which was pretty cool.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. One more question just popped up. Another David. What are your plans for manufacturing, i.e. ODM, OEM, contract manufacturing, if you have any?
Yeah, CM initially. So right now, all of our metal parts are being manufactured offshore. That's purely a cost consideration. I would imagine that will probably remain that way. We do the top level assembly in-house. As that scales, we'll go to a CM, preferring to do it made in America as much as possible, but certainly open to offshoring that as well. But envisioning this as a CM with a drop ship and then in-house customer support and service.
Awesome. David said, thanks. Gabriel, could be a life-saving device in a survival situation. Any research or development in that space?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a lot of literature that's really been done in that specific use case.
Yeah, certainly from a hypothermia could be interesting if you from the putting the heat back in sort of a.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a great comment.
Yeah, good job, Gabriel. That's a nice red team. So they might add that to the deck.
Yeah.
And then another one. Take it on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban would want it for the Mavericks. Okay.
Yeah, so that's great. We've actually I have a few personal contacts that are alums of Shark Tank, and I've kind of reached out to them and said, hey, what do you think about this? It's in our pipe dream in terms of what the first equity round will look like. I think Shark Tank would be awesome. Right now, though, for the amount of capital we're raising and where we are at as in the product development timeline, I just think it's a little too premature. I'd like to be able to walk in there and show them some sales numbers, show them satisfied customers, and have that little bit of market hold, and get one of these superstar NBA athletes out there repping our brand, and then go in and go, hey, Mark, Guess what the Mavs need? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, well, and Braeden, Spyder, did you meet Carcillo? I mean, I know Daniel Carcillo,
did.
man. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
He's a good two-time Stanley Cup champ. He's a good dude. So, did you guys swap digits? If not, I can hook you guys up. You can always talk to Daniel too. So he's
no, you were going to connect us offline after the show. There was a big night.
Okay. Yeah, it was a big night. Yes, that was fun. All right, fun. Gabriel, power out in Phoenix would cause a problem for about 300,000 people. Yeah, true. Yeah, that definitely would not be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, Spyder, Braeden, I'll let you guys wrap it up, man. I think we're good to go.
Hey, thanks again for everyone for your time. Really appreciate you sticking around and hearing what we have to say. Please reach out to Braeden or myself if so inclined. Would love to give you a little bit more information, answer questions, and talk about possibilities in terms of getting you on board and getting you involved as an early backer and an early adopter of a really exciting technology and a fired up team that's ready to go. Hope you all have a great weekend. For those in America celebrating Memorial Day, enjoy the 3-day weekend, and we look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you all. Really appreciate your time joining on a Friday. It's a long weekend, so we'd love to chat. We're really excited about the idea and the vision and what's going to happen. So, at the very least, just talking about it, sharing with the world, getting feedback, getting ideas, criticisms, by all means, we take it all.
Yeah,
awesome.
We'll take feedback too. So.
Yeah, exactly, folks. Spyder, military guy, and Braeden going to Military College of Vermont. They take red team comments, man. Like some good pokes. If you can make anything tighter in this, they'll take all of that. But obviously, folks, potential great angel opportunity. Something like this, could do extremely well. And knowing Spyder, and then obviously Braeden as an athlete, failure ain't an option. So I think they kind of have the same ethos that I do. I'm going to succeed or I'm going to die trying. So failure ain't an option. So like I said, one more time, you got their pitch deck in the handout section right there. So feel free to reach out, email, or text them. And then I'll get a replay of this brief out to you all. And I'll get it to you, Spyder and Braeden, so you guys can mail it out as well. All right, folks, have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge. Fights on. Namaste. And go Cats. I'll see you all Monday morning at 10 a.m. for Solo Amazon. Or no, Tuesday. Yeah, because Memorial Day. Thanks, Spyder. I appreciate that. All right, guys, God bless. And I'll see you on Tuesday, 10 a.m. Fights on.
Thanks, Wiz.